Hey, e-commerce marketing podcast listener. I wanted to let you know that we have created a 6-month guide to marketing your e-commerce store. You can download this guide by visiting getosi.com/guide or by texting GetOSI to 33444. This guide will show you how to get more traffic, sales, and conversions for your online store. Get the guide right now by visiting getosi.com/guide or by texting GetOSI to 33444. Welcome everyone to the e-commerce marketing podcast. I am your host, Arlen Robinson, and today we have a very special guest, Chad Rubin, e-commerce renegade who builds e-commerce businesses. Fresh out of college and Wall Street, he took his family vacuum business online and built his own direct-to-consumer e-commerce business called Crucial Vacuum. He grew it from $0 to $20 million valuation in just 7 years. He happens to be a top 250 Amazon seller. He co-founded Skubana with DJ Kunovac and built one of the e-commerce's hottest operational softwares. Welcome to the podcast, Chad.
Thanks for having me, Arlen.
Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, so you got a pretty diverse background. I know today a lot of what we're going to be talking about to enlighten everybody is going to be about selling on Amazon and selling across multi-channels, which is an area I know we haven't covered too much on this podcast. But before we get into all of that, why don't you enlighten our audience on a little bit about your background, a little bit how you got started and how you get into what you're doing today.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Sure.
So I graduated from University of Massachusetts Amherst. I graduated early because I paid my way through school. Growing up, my parents owned a vacuum store. Now, if I asked your audience when was the last time they went to a vacuum store, they would probably giggle.
Right.
So I grew up in the struggle, really. And so I was like first generation college grad. And I was like, I never want to be an entrepreneur.
Okay.
So I went on to Wall Street after college, covering internet stocks specifically, until I got let go after the Great Recession. Saw a lot of growth happening on Amazon. Started helping my parents on Amazon. And then I actually started a direct-to-consumer business where we manufactured and sold home appliance parts and accessories direct-to-consumer called Crucial Vacuum and Think Crucial.
Okay.
Fast forward, we had all these problems of running the business. You had to use all these siloed applications to manage inventory, order management, purchase orders. You wouldn't have any unified intelligence to run your business. It's like you're operating this massive Boeing 747 blind. So I couldn't find a software out there that did what I needed to do. And so we started building Skubana with the intention, with DJ Kunovac, with the intention of making it commercially viable. And I've been really 99.9% of my time has been focused on that.
Okay.
And I've systemized the whole e-commerce business. I have one employee. I'm grinding.
Okay, that's awesome. One other quick question. Is your family business still up and running, the Crucial Vacuum?
So that's my business.
Okay.
My parents' business actually had went out of business. My father had passed away.
Okay.
There's a whole long story behind that. Yeah, it's just been me solo focusing. We're on 20 different channels right now.
Wow.
Just got onto Home Depot.
Okay.
And we're still scaling and still with one employee because we've automated everything with technology.
Gotcha.
And outsourced resources.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's awesome. We had one of the recent podcasts, we talked a lot about virtual hiring and how powerful that is. I actually interviewed the gentleman that runs the virtual hiring site Online Jobs PH, where they get virtual assistants over in the Philippines, and he runs that company, and we really discussed the real value that virtual hiring can do for a business. So,
yeah, I'm very familiar with Online Jobs.ph too.
Okay, great. So what you talked about and what you mentioned as far as how you got started is very interesting because you're probably, I would say, at least the third guest in a row that's told me that their current business came out of a necessity that they had. You mentioned that there really wasn't much out there as far as inventory management across multiple platforms for the vacuum business, and you saw that there was a need and you jumped right into it. But like you said, there's so many others that I've talked to that tell me the same thing, and it's always good to to be in there because you're building something out of your own needs, so the passion is definitely there. Now, we've on this podcast we've talked a lot about selling on various platforms. We've talked to others about selling on Amazon, and I know there's other platforms that people can sell on, of course. And a lot of our podcast listeners that are out there have their own online store. They may have just gotten started and they're wondering, really what is the best way that you see to add on an Amazon sales channel? Because from the outside in, it can seem kind of daunting and overwhelming for a business to look at it. What do you think?
Yeah, so when I look at building a business or an empire, you got to have the right foundation.
Okay.
So is your foundation intact, and have you systemized what you have today? And I think that's the real key, is like, even when I had my own warehouse, now everything's outsourced. Even my warehouse fulfillment's outsourced.
Okay.
It's in a scalable model that's plug and play and systemized so that I can actually scale and focus, double down on marketing and growth.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to find the right platform that can systemize it, and find a platform that can scale, not just a one-trick pony that's just Amazon specific or just Shopify specific.
Right.
But you need something that's multi-dimensional so that you can actually scale as you grow, and it's not going to be a glass ceiling.
Okay, gotcha. So you can't just wake up one day and say, "Oh, okay, I want to sell on Amazon," and then just jump right into it.
Well, you could just, if you just want to focus on Amazon, sure, you can jump right on Amazon. But if you already have a current business, how do you integrate a new channel into your current business?
Right, exactly. And you want to make sure, like you said, you have those systems in place to be able to manage that. Mm-hmm. Now, I know you deal with, of course, a lot of businesses that utilize your platform across multiple channels. And everybody, of course, talks about Amazon. But what do you see as some of the other top channels that businesses are really making an impact on and really selling well on?
So I can speak from a personal share. I would say you want to focus, depends on your product.
Sure.
So Amazon is, for every dollar that's spent online, 50 cents of it goes to Amazon.
Okay.
So you can't ignore Amazon when you talk about e-commerce.
Right.
But you should also have your own website as well, where you can actually own the customer. And honestly, I think you should be on every platform you can, because it's the real estate play. Mm-hmm. So I love Monopoly, the game Monopoly.
Right.
And in order to win a Monopoly, you need to actually own every piece of real estate on that board to win.
Okay.
Because if someone lands on it, you get paid.
Right.
Same thing in e-commerce.
Okay.
If you have the right system in place, there's no reason why you can't scale across as many channels as possible. It's just another avenue, another sale.
Gotcha.
But for me, when I think about where to sell, most importantly is, where are people spending time? And if you can actually focus on where people are spending time, you're going to win.
Right. Exactly. Now, aside from Amazon, which is, of course, the behemoth in the retail online industry, of course, we have Walmart. I know there was a lot of hype, and there was a kind of a big push with Jet.com when they launched. I don't hear too much more about them these days. Where do they stand? And is that something that you deal with and that you sell on as well?
Well, I think they're fully consumed by Walmart now.
Really? Okay.
So when I think about Jet, I think about Walmart, and we do really, really well in Walmart. But like, not every product's going to do well in Walmart. So we make commodity products, but I don't think like a very innovative product that let's just say Allbirds, right? I don't know if that's necessarily a good fit to sell in Walmart. So you have to really pick and choose your channel, because not all the channels are equal. Right.
Exactly. That's for sure. So, I know there's, of course, some other smaller ones that people can think about participating on. And, the main thing, like you said, it's like Monopoly. You have to make sure you get out there in as many avenues as possible. And, the channels that really actually make sense for your business. Of course, if it's a channel that people frequent that are purchasing your specific type of product. Now, as far as considering selling across multi-channels, are there really any special tools out there for managing multi-channel sales, or inventory management tools, order fulfillment? What are some specific items that somebody needs to have?
There's tons of tools out there. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I have to mention Skubana, but I'm not here to sell Skubana. Skubana is not really for everybody. It's really for advanced sellers. So there's a lot of entry-level tools out there. You have to pick and choose the tools that you use, because not all of them execute on their promise. Right. And that's really what got me starting Skubana, was that I had all these issues, whether it's a percentage of revenue that ones would take, or whether you get under the hood, you sign a 1-year contract, and then you realize that there's no engine, the car can't drive. Right. And there's nothing protecting e-commerce business owners. Like the industry is still so new. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of mistakes to be had in the process, but you have to really, really do a lot of research. Yeah, that is for sure. Because like you said, one of the things that is a true asset to businesses these days, especially e-commerce businesses these days, and I did a presentation on this a couple of weeks ago, is just the explosion of
all of these SaaS solutions out there. You know, like you said, there's so many of these tools out there, from order management to inventory management. And these are, you know, online solutions where you can pay monthly fees for them. And, you know, I've been around for a little while as far as on the internet and dealing with e-commerce businesses. And I recall the days where there was none of that, you know, where SaaS, software as a service, didn't really exist. Anytime you wanted a solution, you either had to, you know, pay a very large enterprise license for that software, get it installed on your server, determine how many seats you needed. And then, you know, and then of course there comes along desktop applications where, you know, if you needed stuff for your local staff, you know, that's a whole nother story. These days, you know, that stuff is definitely gone by the wayside. And so there are so many solutions out there, very affordable. Most of them have free trials. You can check them out, demo them, and, you know, see if they make sense for you. So it's a really a great opportunity for someone that, you know, doesn't have a lot of cash up front to try to get started and to really kind of dive right into it and see what type of impact.
I mean, with Subana, there is no extra plumbing that's required. There's no massive deployment cycle, no intricate customizations that are needed. Mm-hmm. So like we have out-of-the-box functionality, all the integrations to Amazon, every international channel. And one of the biggies with sellers on Amazon is they really are caught up in what they're making, but they're not caught up in what they're keeping. Mm-hmm. And so we have like these incredible SKU profitability reports that include every single fee, so you can actually see exactly, precisely every order and every SKU that's contributed to that order, what your actual true profitability is per SKU.
Okay, gotcha.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, that definitely is. Now, when a business is out there and they're actually selling across all of these different channels and platforms, what's the main thing that you really have to pay attention to, you know, to really be successful?
Well, there's so many things to pay attention to, because like when you're a business owner, you're taking out the garbage, right? You're doing the dishes, you're doing everything.
Right.
And so I really think that the thing that you should be focusing on is how you can double down on what you're really good at and outsourcing weaknesses and finding technology to automate a lot of the low value mundane processes.
Right.
That's on the operational side, right? But then if you don't have a business, which some people listening to this podcast may not, is really thinking about how do you develop a product, how do you source it, how do you make sure that you're making the right move that ensures either first mover advantage or that you're going to actually succeed with that product if it's a competitive space.
Right. That is definitely for sure. And, you know, one of the things these days, because of the connectedness of everything with social media, with all of these review sites, you know, as I mentioned, it's because of the ability to really get out there and to get your product sold across the multiple platforms, it actually is almost a double-edged sword, because you can get really some quick exposure, but if you do the wrong thing, or you know, you have some holes in your processes as far as maybe fulfillment, you've got people waiting on their orders, things like that. Unfortunately, word spreads. And if people have a complaint and have an issue, you know, these days people do not hesitate to put, you know, bad reviews out there, whether it's Google, whether it's Facebook, whether it's, you know, the Better Business Bureau, what have you. You know, someone can really, if you do the wrong thing and you're not fulfilling your customers' expectations, you know, that will be shown all over the internet pretty quickly. And it can be hard to recover from that. I've seen a lot of businesses that have failed early on and tried to recover, but, you know, they ruined their reputation too early and weren't able to recover from that.
Yeah, I mean, you want to definitely delight. I mean, the model that I follow, I mean, especially selling on Amazon forces you to achieve their performance metrics. Mm-hmm. So it's a great incubator, and they like track you and track KPIs. So that's one thing I really enjoy about selling on Amazon is they force me to level up to their expectations and their customer expectations, and then actually give those to our clients.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, that actually can help a business because you're adhering to their requirements, their expectations, and you can actually take that, apply it to your business, apply it to even your direct selling, because you know you can see what it takes to have a successful presence on Amazon, and then you can turn around and do those same things on your own e-commerce website. So yeah, that's actually another benefit that, you know, not a lot of people realize. But, you know, the thing with Amazon is they've got, you know, more money than pretty much any business in the world almost. And so
Yep.
they've got the brightest minds from marketing to user interface to customer psychology. The list goes on. And so they got the top people constantly analyzing how people purchase and how to really be successful selling online. So yeah, it's something you definitely don't want to take for granted. Now, a business that does jump out there or is considering jumping out there across all of these different channel platforms, is there certain types of infrastructures with regards to their e-commerce backend that they should have in place that they can be successful with?
Well, you want to make sure that, so one of the reasons why SaaS models like ours, like at Skubana, we're a SaaS model, we have an app integration ecosystem that are just plug and play. So when you pick a system, you need to make sure you're picking one that has an ecosystem that's developed into it.
Right.
So that you can extend and scale and add strength to the platform without having to do custom integrations.
Sure.
So I think that's just a biggie that people should focus on when they're making a decision. If you're building a shopping cart, you're looking at the same thing. Like what does the ecosystem look like? Why is one better than the other? Doing an apples to apples comparison, understanding how extensible and how you can extend the reach of the platform. Because of course the plan is that you're here at the ground level, but in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, you don't want to have to re-platform constantly.
Right. Yeah, that's for sure. Here at OmniStar with our affiliate software, we get approached by a lot of different types of businesses that are selling on various platforms. And what you said is definitely correct. We often get people that come to us with platforms that are new, that I've never, nobody's really heard of too much, and are very limited. And as far as the integration, a lot of times they come to us saying, okay, you're the fifth company I've come to. We're trying to see if you're compatible with XYZ cart.
Yep.
Can you do it? And then, we're like, I'm sorry. The only thing we usually do in that situation is, we recommend them to some of our other partners that, like you said, have a larger ecosystem, have those APIs and things and those hooks in place where, they can talk to a lot of different other solutions, and the integration is a lot more seamless. So it really does make sense. I've talked to some businesses that have gone down that unfortunate rabbit hole where they're dealing with some of these smaller providers, and they get to a point where they're kind of in too deep, where they're like, if we suggest them looking at another option, they're like, I can't redo this entire site. I've got too many products out here. I've spent too much time. It just doesn't make sense for me financially to try to switch. So definitely want to think about that up front before selecting your infrastructure and your platform. Now, Chad, you've given us some great advice. What do you think is the number one best piece of advice that you can give an e-commerce business that has just started multi-channel sales?
That's just started selling, or just started selling across many channels?
Just started selling across many channels.
Best piece of advice for them is probably focusing on optimizing content per channel.
Okay.
So that it places your product and it increases the placement of that product on that channel.
Okay.
Because an eBay listing is very different from an Amazon listing.
Right.
People have different shopping behavior on both platforms. Actually, it's a different customer that's shopping on each of those platforms. Mm-hmm. So I think that's probably what I would focus on if you're just starting to be multi-channel right now.
Okay. And that makes sense because, it's like one shoe definitely doesn't fit all with regards to these different channels, because there's a lot of different requirements. There's different types of users across the different channels. So you can't just say, okay, I'm going to use this blanket product description across everything and then just expect to be successful. That makes total sense. You need to make sure you're adhering to the different guidelines of the different platforms, and you do the things that you have to do to optimize across each one, individually. So that's definitely a great piece of advice. So, all of the businesses that are listening that are thinking of doing it, I think it's definitely a great time to do multi-channel sales. Like you said, there's a number of different platforms. There's a number of different solutions that businesses can get assistance with and managing their whole back end. Well, Chad, we definitely appreciate you joining us here on the E-commerce Marketing Podcast. You've given a great wealth of information for any businesses that's exploring multi-channel sales. Now, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how do they do it?
Well, you can check out my book on Amazon, Cheaper, Easier, Direct. It's really the game plan of how I grew my Amazon business.
Okay.
Lots of gold nuggets in there for you to check out. You can always email me at chad@stubana.com if you ever need anything. Yeah, and you can reach out to me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, any which way. I'm reachable.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Thanks a lot, Chad, and we appreciate you joining us today on the E-commerce Marketing Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the E-commerce Marketing Podcast. To access e-commerce videos and other resources to help your business grow, please visit getosi.com/videos. Subscribe to us on iTunes by searching for E-commerce Marketing Podcast, and please leave a rating and a review. Thanks for listening. See you next time.